Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at understanding our spark timing logic and programming within our Gen 3 engine control modules. Now, this is going to apply for both F-150s and Mustangs in terms of how this functions and works. It is a relatively complex topic. I'm going to try to break this down and make this as clear as possible in this training module. We're going to be working with a sample calibration file, and we're going to be working with a sample data log file so we make better sense of the normal spark timing operation and what goes on in terms of the programming logic. Now, we're going to talk about how to tune the spark timing tables and some strategies in another tutorial, but for right now, we're just trying to understand what goes on and how the spark timing is called out within the engine's operation with our Gen 3 engine control modules. Now, we have already covered the idea of spark timing, just the fundamentals of what it represents in the engine cycle. That's in our previous tutorial. So this is just an overview now of understanding what Ford is implementing to get the correct spark timing called out in a huge variety of conditions. So we'll find if we're at idle, if we're in a warm-up mode, so emissions reduction mode, if we're in, let's say we're making a shift happen, we have a large throttle input, we're in deceleration cutoff, we're going to be in all these different modes. And the spark timing that we call out will always be different because we want to accomplish different tasks. The Gen 3 engine control modules are a torque-based control system, so we want to stay within the amount of torque that we are calling out and trying to work with here to make the engine do exactly what we want in the programming. And the spark timing is going to be one of those things that's constantly moved around in order to manipulate the engine's torque output. So we can drastically reduce the spark timing almost instantaneously and cut the engine's torque very quickly and effectively. And that is the engine control module's primary means to control torque, which is spark timing. So we're going to find what we call out here in the routine in terms of the borderline knock table and the maximum brake torque table. We should find we're somewhere between that, and the knock system is also taking place in all of this. So there's a kind of a dynamic movement of the spark timing at any given point in time. We can override all of that depending on what our actual spark timing is doing in terms of the mode it's called out in. So if we're in a transmission shift or automatic transmission, we'll find our spark timing is going to be called out right from there. It's going to be a torque-based control at that point, and the spark timing will override everything that we would normally think the spark timing should be at. So we're going to break this down so it makes a little bit more sense. It probably sounds a little bit complicated right now. First thing I want to do here is open up a sample calibration file for this particular training module. This particular calibration file is paired to the data log that I've supplied for this training module as well. This is from our 2022 Mach 1 test vehicle. This is running a custom VCT schedule. I've deleted the intake manifold runner control in the intake manifold, and I've pared down the VCT movement to only 6 mapped points. Now that's important because the mapped points will drive and control where the spark timing is coming from. So we call out in our VCT schedule what we want our cam pairing at, and then that particular map pointer cam pairing is then cross-referenced in our borderline or maximum brake torque tables, and that is what we call out and dictate for the spark timing. Now, there is the ability to go in and tune this system, but for right now, we're trying to understand the programming logic behind this and not actually do any tuning. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing here in this training module. We'll have a separate module actually going in and doing some tuning in our spark timing and seeing what we can accomplish and what we can get out of our engine and understanding maybe things a little bit further. But for right now, let's take a look at our sample file. Let's get that open so we can start to dissect some of our spark timing logic here. Okay, so what we want to do here is go to File, and we want to go to Open, and I'm going to move into the desktop. We're going to go to our HPT Gen 3 Training Course folder. We're going to go to our sample data logs, and then into spark timing. And then in here, we can see this particular file here. Let's go ahead and open this up. This is the file we're going to be referencing here with my custom VCT schedule, whittled down to 6 map points for operation. So looking at this, let's go here to our engine, and we're going to go here from general all the way over here to spark, and we want to go in our advanced tab. This is going to be what we primarily stick with and talk about in this training module. We do have some other tabs here under spark. So we have retard, which is associated to our knock control. We're going to have a separate training module taking a look at knock control. We're not going to cover that right now. We also have our knock sensor calibration tables, which we may get into here. And then we also have coil dwell, which we'll talk about in another training module. Coil dwell is going to be associated to how we charge the coils to get the proper spark energy to our spark plugs when we're firing off our spark plugs at a spark event. But let's move back here into advanced and let's talk about a few things. So we have different modes we may potentially be operating in with our spark timing. And we can find out what mode we're operating in based on what's known as our spark source. Our spark source is a PID logging channel. It's going to give us an insight and window into what the engine control module, where the engine control module is getting its spark timing from. So that's something that we can actually take a look at here. If we just flip over into our VCM scanner, we can actually take a look. This is just a blank logging list right now, but if we take a look down here, we're going to find this PID here labeled spark source. This will tell us exactly what the engine control module is doing in terms of where the spark timing is coming from, because we have so many different layers of torque management and spark timing control that at any given time you might find that your timing advance, which is your actual timing delivered to your engine, could be varying as much as 20 to 40 degrees from where you expect it to be at. And that's because we may have a torque control type of situation going on, and the spark source will reflect that. If we're operating in a borderline situation or a maximum brake torque or pre-ignition or combustion stability or combustion limit, you'll find that that's called out here in our spark source. So this tells us which table is in play at any given time when we're looking at our spark timing. And it's important that we always track what our sources are doing, because these really tell us what the engine control module is thinking or doing at that particular point. So if we want to calibrate and tune, we definitely want to keep an eye on our spark source. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here. And you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.